Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to my 3 Takeaways episode from the Mark and Crystal Hansen interview that I just posted this past Monday. I mean, what an honor it was to have them on. I mean, I've known who Mark Victor Hansen is for probably 5 years, but not a ton of time, but just because I've only recently over the last handful of years have I gotten into reading. And I mean, the Chicken Soup for the Soul series is like the best book series that's ever been created. Over 500 million copies. We've estimated that we've had over 1 billion readers. Over 1 billion. I mean, that is absolutely insane. So it's just an honor to have him and his wife Crystal on. And I absolutely loved their book. Like, I cannot recommend this book enough. It's called Ask the Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. I'm not even looking at the book and I just know the title. Ask the Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. And the fable in the beginning, the fable of Michaela, is so powerful. And if you ever feel like what you do doesn't serve that big a purpose and you don't believe that what you do matters, you've got to read the book. You've got to read it no matter who you are. But if you feel like what you do doesn't matter, I want you to read this book. I want you to read The Fable of Michaela. It's such a powerful story. It got me freaking emotional when I was reading it, and I told them that it was just so powerful. But before I get into the 3 takeaways, if you guys are looking for more structure, more motivation, more discipline in your fitness routine, then make sure you check out nickcarrier.com/10-week programs, because my 10-week program that I've been doing since the beginning of 2020 is bulletproof. I did it at the beginning of 2020, and I run it with over 100 people now, almost getting up there to 150, and I've been able to see what works. I've been able to see what resonates with people. I've been able to see what is actually the secret to keeping people consistent. And that's really the name of the game, because so many people look for the quick fix with their exercise routine or with their diet especially. Everybody's looking for the easy way out. But in reality, it's like if you take a quick fix, then you don't build the habits to make it sustainable, right? So if you lose 20 pounds in a week or 2 weeks, then you didn't build any kind of habits, so you're going to gain the 20 pounds right back. But I've learned how to keep people consistent by starting small, by teaching them how to actually stay patient with the process. And then over time, they get the results and they've built the habits so that they can sustain the weight that they've lost or sustain the strength that they've actually gained. So make sure you go to nickcarrier.com/10-week programs if you want me to hold you accountable, if you want me to send you workouts every single week that are tailored to your goal and tailored to the equipment that you have available to you. But without further ado, let's get right into my 3 takeaways with Mark and Crystal Hansen. Takeaway number 1 is our perception of asking is wrong. I think this was huge for me because we feel as if when we ask a question, we're going to be looked at as stupid or as ignorant or as not educated. And I think I've felt like this before sometimes. If I feel like I'm going to ask another trainer another question, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I ask them this question, they're going to think I don't know what I'm doing. And I feel like a lot of people probably in meetings at their work, they feel like if they ask a question, then they're going to be seen as not smart or like you should have known that already. When the reality of the situation is people don't view you the way that you think you're going to be viewed. Like if you ask a question, the other person actually perceives you as curious, actually perceives you as smarter. They see you as likable and likely to actually do business with you or likely to take you up on your idea. And that's not just me making that up in my head. They did research, like Mark and Crystal did research or looked at studies, I think from Harvard and behavioral studies and stuff like that, that people actually perceive others who ask questions as smarter. And also in a dating experience, you're going to be more likely to get a second date if you're asked questions. So our perception of asking is that we're going to be seen as stupid oftentimes or as not educated, but the other person doesn't perceive it as that. And so next time you don't ask a question or you're thinking about not asking a question because of that reason, remember that they're not perceiving you as that way if you ask the question. Takeaway number 2 is you have to be willing to admit that you're an idiot. Because he talked about the example, Mark Victor Hansen talked about the example, how he was getting ready to do a podcast interview and it was on a different site that they're not as familiar with. And for whatever reason, he and his wife couldn't figure out the technology to get on. And instead of just being stubborn and trying to figure it out himself and being unsuccessful, he called his son and his son walked him through it. And his son probably thought that he was an idiot, if you will. But another example he talks about in his book is Mark's brother literally missed his flight because he was not willing to ask anybody in the airport for help to get around. He wasn't willing to ask Mark, his brother, for any help how to navigate himself through the airport. And so he missed his flight. And the only reason that Mark found out he missed his flight is because he called his niece or his brother's daughter and asked if he got home all right. And she was like, no, he's not here. And he was just too stubborn to ask anybody for help. So you have to be willing to admit you're an idiot. And I hesitate to say you're an idiot, but I just think it's a kind of a funny takeaway. You have to be willing to admit that you don't know in order to get the result. Like, if he didn't admit that he didn't know how to get on the podcast, then he wouldn't have been able to get on the podcast, because his brother didn't admit that he didn't know how to get through an airport. He didn't actually make the flight. So they didn't get the result that they wanted, or his brother didn't get the result that they wanted. So you have to be willing to admit that you don't know. Takeaway number 3 is ask big questions and get big answers. He talks about how he was talking about somebody when he was younger, and his goal was to make $400 a day. And the guy told him, what if it was 4,000? It's just one more zero. Like, do you think you can make $4,000 a day? And he didn't make $4,000 away right away, but like, if you ask bigger questions, you're going to get bigger answers. The reason being is because the goal that you set for yourself creates the strategy. And I remember I literally talked about this 2 years ago with Marcus Whitney on the podcast, and I was like, that was huge. He was like, in business, the goal that you set for your business determines the strategy. He's like, if we set the goal for my business at making $100,000 this year, that strategy is going to look a whole lot different than I'm going to set the goal of making $1 million this year, right? And so if you ask the bigger questions on how can I make $1 million instead of how can I make $100,000, the action that you're going to take or the answers that you're going to come up with are going to be a whole lot different than the smaller questions that you might ask yourself. The strategy that you would have if you asked yourself the smaller questions. So ask big questions, get big answers, and if you take massive action, you're going to get massive results. Now, one of the things that I told them is one of the questions that I'm going to try to ask myself every single night. I literally printed it out yesterday from the time that I'm recording this, and it's this: how can I serve the most people in a way that is most uniquely me? That's what I want to ask myself every single day, every single morning, every single night. How can I serve the most people in a way that is most uniquely me? So again, guys, my 3 takeaways. Number 1, our perception of asking is wrong. We think that we're going to be perceived by the other person as stupid, when in reality, they're going to actually think that we're smarter and more curious, and they want to interact with us more often. Takeaway number 2 is you have to be willing to admit that you're an idiot, because if you're not willing to admit it, you're not going to get the result that you want. You're not going to be able to get home on your flight, and you're not going to be able to get on that podcast interview in the 2 examples that I talked about. And then takeaway number 3 is ask big questions and get big answers, because the goal that you set for yourself determines the strategy that you're going to implement, determines the action that you're going to take. And the only way that you're going to get massive results is if you take massive action. I hope you guys enjoyed these 3 takeaways. Make sure that you go back and listen to the interview with Mark and Crystal if you haven't yet already. That one was absolutely phenomenal. Make sure that you go get their book, Ask: The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. Go check out their book club, askbookclub.com. I just registered for it myself. I'm really excited to when they get that up and running. And then make sure, if you want more discipline, if you want more structure, if you want more motivation in your fitness routine, that you go to nickcarrier.com/10-week programs, because I believe in this thing so much. I believe that if a human being has the ability to set a fitness goal and then achieve it, they're going to have the confidence to improve in all areas of their life. And I know that if you're listening to this episode, especially if you're listening all the way through, that you're that type of person that wants to improve in all areas of their life. That's what Best You is all about. Best You is becoming the best version of yourself in all aspects of your life, not just fitness, not just spiritual, not just in relationships, but all of them combined together. And that's what I want for you. And it can start for you by hitting that fitness goal. So make sure you apply these takeaways so you can get closer and closer to your best you.